and then run the internet browser. And we're going to go to es7in1.site, echo stretches 7 in 1 host, select the PS5 option, and run the idlesos host or any of the other Spectre's hosts. And then we're going to run the jailbreak. So from here, we're going to inject the dumper payload. So we need to note down the PS5's IP address right here. So 192.168.1v7.176 on port 9020. That's what it's listing on. Okay, so now we need to switch over to the computer and download a couple of things. We want to get SOCAT for Windows. So go to the code and download as a zip file. Of course, all the downloads will be in the description. We also want Netcat GUI version 1.2. And we're also going to want the decryption payload from Slayer's Govy, which I will also leave linked below. Okay, so first we want to open Netcat GUI and drag in the dumper payload here, slayersdumper.bin, drag it into the program, enter the PS5's IP address in the IP box, and the port number needs to be 9020. So set that up first, and then go into the SOCAT folder. So SOCAT for Windows, right-click in the folder where socat.exe is, and open in terminal. And then from here, we're going to type in cmd to switch to command prompt because it does not work through PowerShell, if I remember correctly. So press enter on that to switch to command prompt. And then we'll clear the screen and paste in the command that will be linked in the description, which is this command right here. You just need to replace the PS5 IP address with the actual IP address of your PS5. So we're going to pop that in there. And then last but not least, to get this working, we're just going to press enter on this command for SOCAT, and then immediately inject the payload on Netcat GUI straight afterwards. So we're going to press enter on this, and then inject the payload. So we press enter, and then inject payload, and then we get a successfully connected from local address, and now it's starting the data transfer. And it may get stuck on this for a while, but eventually you should start seeing a bunch of data being transferred. Okay, there we go. You can see it's now transferring, so it was stuck there for a few minutes, but it's now going. Once it says exiting with status 0, that means it is finished, so we can close out of this now, close out of Netcat GUI, and if you go back into the SOCAT folder, you'll see that we now have this ra.tar file in here. If you open that up, go into the MNT folder, the sandbox folder, PFS mount, and then we have the actual app folder right here. If you extract this out to your desktop, this will contain your decrypted executable and modules. So we've got our eboot.bin here, we've got our modules, which is libc, and our write.sprx. You may have more modules and more executables in here for your game, but that is it done. Now, if you have a message that says something like eboot failed, if it says any of these failed, then unfortunately you probably have one of the games that's not decryptable right now with this decryption payload, which is unfortunate. Or if the files have no file size, if they're all 0 bytes, then that also means that it has failed to decrypt them. But if that's not the case, if you have it like this, where they have proper file sizes and it doesn't say that any of them failed, then you should be good. You should have all of your executables and modules successfully decrypted. So all we need to do now is get the game files. Now what we want to do is install items flow and also grab a USB drive that's large enough to fit the size of the game on it. We go to our USB drive. I've got one here that's got 232 gigs free, which is plenty of space. The USB needs to be formatted in exFAT format, so the file system needs to be exFAT. Make sure you reformat it if it's in any other format. And we're going to copy the items flow package in here. You can grab items flow from, of course, the Homebrew store from pkg-zone.com. On your computer, you can just go to it here and download the PS5 version, or you can grab it from the Homebrew store app itself on the PS5. So from here, we can go ahead and eject this and plug it into our PS5. So when the decryption payload finished, it will give us this not enough free system memory error. So we can just go back and refresh the page and run the jailbreak again, because this time we need to run the eta-hen payload. Okay, then we're going to run the eta-hen payload. Okay, there we go. So eta-hen is up and running. Okay, so once you get that message, we can press the PS button to exit. We're going to head over to settings. We're going to go down to the debug settings, which should now be enabled after running eta-hen. We can go to game. We can click OK to this message and go to package installer and install items flow. And then it says ready to play, so I can press the PS button and play it. App has been granted a jailbreak. And here we go. So you can support Lightning mods via the link there on Ko-Fi. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. But anyway, we've got Ghost of Tsushima right here. So we're going to select it, and we're going to select the option to dump it to the USB. Now you can dump all or just the base game or just the patch. We're going to dump all, even though we only have the base game installed. We're just going to select the dump all option. If you do have a game update installed, you're also going to want to do the dump all option as well. So we're going to select that option here, and that's going to run the game. So there we go, game is now running, and you can see it's now starting to dump the game. So dumping base game, and then it'll give you progress updates every 6 seconds on the progress, and it dumps fairly quickly. As you can see, we're already past 1%. So we're just going to wait until it finishes dumping the entire game over to the USB. Okay, so that took quite a while, but once you stop getting those messages every 6 seconds, that should mean that it is finished, so we can go ahead and close out of the game now. We'll head back over here and close the game, and then we'll unplug our USB and plug it back into our computer. Okay, so back on the computer here, we can get rid of this package now. So here we have the actual game dump itself, so ppsa03208. If we go in here, we've got our eboot.bin and our modules and everything else, but these are all encrypted. These modules are encrypted, so this PRX file, and of course this one here, is also encrypted. The way that you can tell if it's actually decrypted or not is you can open up in a hex editor. So if we use HXD, I'll leave a link to this in the description. If we copy the eboot.bin inside, you can see this one is encrypted. So it's not decrypted the executable in items flow. You've got the .elf file is showing up further down here. And then if we take the one that we got from our decryption payload that we ran initially, and we take this eboot and throw it in, you can see how different it is. It actually starts with the .elf file right here. So this one is encrypted, and this one is decrypted. So what we want to do is replace all of the encrypted files on our game dump on the USB with the decrypted ones we got from Slayer's Go V's dumping payload. So here we have the game dump, and here we have our decrypted modules. So we want to replace the eboot.bin right here, replace file and destination, and then we'll also take the SCE system and SCE modules folder and merge those in with the game files here, replace files in destination. So the last step we need to do is bake sign these files. Now to re-sign the files, we can use the makefself script. Now this is originally was made by Flat, but Lightning Mods has updated the script to fix, I think, a few issues, and also updated to use the latest versions of Python instead of Python 2. So that will be linked in the description along with the makefself script and remove fself script by EchoStretch. So I'll leave those both down in the video description together. You can go ahead and download it. You'll get both of these files. So you want to make sure that you have Python installed in order to run this. So I've got Python version 3.Lightning installed right here. So make sure you go ahead and install that if you don't already have it. So now we just copy the two files, the Python script and the bat script, into the game dump location and double-click the bat file to run the script. And you can see here it is actually fake signing the files, so the libc, right, .sprx and the eboot.bin. So that is now done. Now, if you get an error message that says something about the word Python not being a recognized command, if you get that message, it's probably because you installed Python through the Python installer on the website instead of installing it from the Microsoft Store, in which case you'll need to edit the bat script here by right-clicking and selecting the edit option to edit it in Notepad, and then from there you can change the word Python here to py instead, and then save it, and then try and run the bat script again, and it should work this time. So if we refresh, we can get rid of the bat script and the Python script, and we now have the fake signed version as well as a backup of the decrypted version, which is the ESBack file. So the script also creates a backup file of the original module. So this is the backup that will still be, the decrypted one. So if we open this up in HXD, you can see this one is still decrypted. But the new one that it's made here is the fake signed version. So it has re-signed the file, and that means it should be playable now via items flow. Now we can just leave those in the game dump folder because there might be some other method of running these dumps in future through some kind of fake package method or through an emulator in future, in which case you might need those original decrypted files. But for running them in items flow, we need the fake signed version. So once you've done that, your dump should now be playable, or at least runnable. Obviously, different games have certain issues when trying to run them using this method. Not all games are playable, but at least now you have a version that you can try and load and see if it actually works. So let's go ahead and give this a try now. We'll eject the drive and plug it into our PS5 and see if we can get it loaded. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete my save file real quick because we were getting that issue where it was saying, hey, there's a save file that already exists for a newer version. So I couldn't actually progress in the game and get further on. So we'll go ahead and delete the saves for Ghost of Tsushima. I just need to do that because I went from being on a higher update to the base version. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and eject the game here as well. So we'll eject the disk and delete the game for the disk version. Okay, so that's gone. All right, so now we're going to go back on items flow and add our game dump version here. Let's see if we can't get it running. Okay, so we'll go to PS5 app, change app path, and we'll press R1 to switch to the right menu for a USB stick. There's the dump right there, PPSA 03208. We'll press square to select it. And there we go, game changed successfully, and launch. So when you launch your game dump for the first time, you'll get this message that says launching and then the game title, and this will be stuck on here for quite some time. It could take several minutes before it actually launches. It's copying a bunch of files from the dump to the hard drive, not the entire thing, but just the SCE system folder, the contents of that, get copied over to the hard drive so it can create the virtual app. So that needs to happen first of all, but once that's done, the second time you launch it and any other time you launch the game thereafter, it should just launch instantly. It's only on the first launch that you may be stuck on here for quite some time, so just give it a few minutes until it actually starts to load the game. Okay, so now it launches, you get that universal data registration error thing. That's normal with these dumps, and this something went wrong. We get a couple of messages here. This is just something that happens with Ghost of Tsushima. But once you click OK, you can see the game actually launches. So there we go, we've got a working game dump of our game. So our disk game is now running without the original disk, as you can see right here. Got it all loaded. Now it is normal to run into some problems with these dumps. It is early days, so a lot of games just don't work right now. So you might be able to get a quote-unquote working dump where it's able to launch, but then it has some other error that pops up while it's trying to launch the game. Or certain things don't work in the game, or you can't get past the main menu or a sign-in screen or something like that. So this is why we have the compatibility list to show you get a good idea of what games are playable, what games have issues that might require a few patches to get them working, and which games just do not run whatsoever. I can't even launch. So that's really, what it's all about here. So you can see we've got the base version here. We'll just go ahead and get into the game. Sure, it's all loaded. Yeah, so the base version, just like if you don't have a save, it just launches you straight into the cutscene. So yeah, anyway, as you can see, game is running here. If we exit out to the home menu, we've got it now showing up as the low game or full game or whatever acronym you want to use for that. But we've got the game showing up here, the game dump, and we can now launch it. So that's pretty much it. That's how you can create your own PS5 game dumps of your physical games or your digital games, and get them running without the original disk or license file, so that you have a working backup that you can use in future. If anything ever happens to your retail copy, you'll have a backup. You could use it to run in an emulator in future, and any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, obviously this will hopefully get easier in future. Lightning Mods is intending to add proper decryption into items flow so that it can do the entire thing for you, decrypt the executables and dump the game files, and basically create a working dump straight from items flow, which would be good. So that would be the kind of ultimate solution. But obviously right now, because we have issues with the decryption payloads, there are quite a few steps involved. Unfortunately, we have to decrypt the executables first, then dump the game files, then fake sign the executables and the modules in order to be able to get a playable dump. But in future, it should get easier. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And once again,